Have you ever noticed how the biggest market shifts don't start with headlines? They start quietly, in labs, in procurement contracts, in engineering decisions nobody outside of a handful of people understand. And then one day, everybody wakes up and the price has doubled. And that's where we are right now with silver. Not gold, not copper, silver. And almost nobody is looking at it the right way because they're still telling you the old story. Precious metal, monetary hedge, retail coin demand, and that's not wrong. It's just incomplete. When what they're missing, what almost everybody is missing, is that silver is in the process of becoming something else entirely, an energy critical material. And that trigger for that shift is solid state batteries. Now, if you've been around markets long enough, you've heard this before: revolutionary battery breakthrough, next generation chemistry, 5 years away. We've been hearing that for 20 years. Most of it was noise. But this time, it's different. And not because of hype, because of who is involved and what problem they're actually trying to solve. See, the current lithium-ion architecture, it works, but it's fundamentally constrained. Energy density, safety, degradation, it's a trade-off machine. And you want more range? You sacrifice longevity. You want faster charging? You increase risk. That's why the batteries blow up and start fires. And for mass EV adoption at scale, that's a problem, a real one. So the industry is looking for a steep change, not an incremental improvement, a steep change. And that is where solid state comes in. Higher energy density, faster charging, safer chemistry. In theory, it solves everything, but in reality, it introduces a different problem: materials, specifically interfaces, dendrites, cracking, stability across cycles. And this is where silver enters the story, not as a substitute, not as a nice to have, but as a functional solution. Silver has properties that are extremely difficult to replicate: highest electrical conductivity of any metal, thermal stability, and, most importantly, it behaves in a way that helps stabilize the next-gen battery architectures. So, what are companies doing? They're experimenting with silver inside a battery. Not grams spread across electronics like today, but meaningful quantities, hundreds of grams, potentially up to a kilogram per vehicle. That's 2.2 pounds. That's like nearly 40 ounces of silver. It's a lot. So now pause there, because this is where the entire market disconnect begins. Let's do the math. Global silver production, roughly 25,000 metric tons per year. Already tight. Already running deficits for, I believe, the last 6 years. So now imagine even a partial adoption scenario. Let's say 15% of EVs go solid state. Not all of them, just the premium segment. And each uses, conservatively, say 500 grams of silver. That's thousands of tons of incremental increase in demand. Double-digit percentages increase to the global supply, just from one use case. So now here's the part that should make you uncomfortable, because markets don't break when demand grows gradually. They break when demand shows up somewhere no one modeled and supply can't respond. Silver supply doesn't respond quickly. It's not like oil. You don't just drill more silver wells. Most silver is a byproduct of mining for other metals, which means even if price doubles, triples, or more, supply does not instantly follow. So what does happen? System tightens, then it strains, and then it snaps. But where do you see that first? Not on your brokerage app and not on the front page of the financial media. You see it in the plumbing. First, in London, the LBMA. Lease rates start moving. Physical availability tightens. Bars become harder to source. Then futures markets, COMEX, starts behaving strangely. Paper claims versus physical inventory, so spreads widen, backwardation appears. People who thought they owned silver realize they own exposure, not metal. And then China steps in because China understands something the West often ignores. If something is critical to industrial policy, you secure it. The Shanghai Gold Exchange doesn't play paper games. It clears physical. So if silver becomes critical to EV infrastructure, China will pull supply aggressively. And now you don't have one market, you have two, a Western paper price and an Eastern physical price. And that's when things get interesting, because eventually those two prices have to reconcile. Historically, that reconciliation does not happen quietly, it happens violently. And now let's be clear, this is not guaranteed. Solid-state batteries are hard. Scaling them is harder. There are cost issues. Silver is not cheap. There are competing chemistries. There's a very real chance this gets delayed or partially adopted or engineered around. But here's the part most people don't understand still. Silver doesn't need this to work. That's what makes it dangerous. Solar demand is already rising. Electrification is already happening. The market is already tight. So you don't need the bull case. You don't need 100% adoption. You just need enough incremental demand hitting the system that cannot flex. And suddenly silver is not $75, $90, $110 asset anymore. It reprices into something else, $225, $400, maybe higher, not because of speculation, because of necessity. And that's the difference between a trade and a regime change. So how do you position? Well, if you're thinking like an institution, you don't wait for confirmation, because by the time it's that obvious, it's already moved. You build exposure early, physical if you can get it, high quality miners selectively. Optionality plays if you understand the risk and you pay attention to the signals, not the headlines, the signals. So lease rates, inventory levels, Shanghai premiums, because when those start to move, that's when you know the story is no longer theoretical, it is happening. And by then, you are either positioned or you are chasing. And in markets like this, chasing is where people get hurt. So the question isn't whether silver is interesting. The question is whether the market is underestimating how quickly it can become critical. Because if solid-state batteries even partially work, silver does not just go up, it becomes indispensable. And markets don't price indispensable gradually, they price it all at once. And now you know the rest of the solid-state story. Build that stack. iBankerU. Good day.